Okay guys, so I want to revisit the 45-degree back raise. Now, many years ago I started doing these back raises, and a lot of people call them Rubish raises or 45-degree hyperextensions or whatever you want to call them, because they said I invented it. But actually, Josh Bryant was the first one to implement these many years ago. Now you see a bunch of people doing these, which is really cool. It's a great exercise. But I wanted to revisit the back raise and tweak it a little bit. So for many years I did these and they really helped my deadlift. But I would load them up really heavy. I've actually gone up to 500 pounds on them. And I would just kind of deadlift it up without any thought to the form or anything like that. The point was just overload the hamstrings and low back. And it did have a carryover. But I think it's a contributing factor in why I had the disc issue in my L4, L5 on the right side. So I noticed these would flare up my disc, so I stopped doing them for a while. And I'm getting back to them, but there's a caveat to that. So what I'm doing now, I'm going to show you in the video right after this. This is my new and improved version of these and how I think they should be done personally to get a greater carryover to deadlift, hit the hamstrings harder, get better glute activation, all those things. You're gonna see a huge difference. So in the video coming up here, I'm using 95 pounds, just 95 pounds, whereas I used to always go above 315. And what I'm doing is I'm keeping constant tension throughout the whole set. So I'll pick the bar up, and then I'll lower it really slowly to get a full stretch in my hamstrings. And when I'm just above the ground, I'll bring it back up. So I don't set it down. It's just a slow motion down, bring it back up each rep. And I'm doing these for sets of 10 right now. The other thing, I'm using 25-pound plates instead of 45s to get a bit more range of motion. Lucy, get over here. You little bugger. You better get over here right now. Let's go. Get in here. You better sit down, mate. Alright. So where were we? So I'll use 25-pound plates instead of 45 to get more range of motion. And obviously 25-pound plates aren't as tall. You can get more range of motion. So what I'll do is I'll just use 25s from here on. But you don't need much weight. Even 95, I felt like crazy. So the other thing is, when I lock it out, I'm flexing my glutes really hard for that glute activation. So this does two things. You get glute activation, and then you also stop the range of motion where it would start to hyperextend your back and put pressure on that disc. So as long as you flex your glutes at the top, you're not going to go too far up to where it's going to put pressure on the discs. So you're going to stop about right here. That's where your glutes are going to flex. Now, without flexing your glutes, you could go like this. That's where you get that hyperextension in the back and you get disc problems. So not only are you getting glute activation, which is going to help your deadlift lock out, and it's going to have a better carryover to deadlift, but you're not going to hurt your back. The other thing I do, I try to, just like on a deadlift, I try to take my lats and flex them. Try to pin my lats against my armpit. Again, better carryover to a deadlift. So those are the major changes. And you're gonna use much less weight. If you're using 2 plates, I highly doubt you're doing it right. Because to get the form right, you'd have to be pulling 700 plus. Based on what I'm talking about here. I could load it up 4 plates and just rip it off the ground. But that's not what I'm talking about here. I want to nail this form down so it has a better carryover to your deadlift and just works better. This is how I'm going to be doing them. So not getting crazy with the weights, easing into stronger or higher and higher weights. Right now, 95 pounds today. Not difficult, but heck of a stretch in the hamstrings. Some people complain about knee pain on this movement, and if you are getting knee pain, there's one of 2 reasons. Either you don't have the pad quite high enough up on the hips, so if you put the pad super low, it's going to put more pressure on the knees or the back of the knees, that hamstring area. You gotta find that sweet spot with the pad height. So if you're having knee pain, try bumping the pad up a notch. The other thing, turn your feet out a little bit. So instead of having your feet straight ahead, turn them out just a tad. This will take some pressure off the knees. If you do these things, you should not have knee pain. Those are the big things, and I think that pretty much covers it all. But these are the changes I'm gonna start implementing. Watch the video to see what I'm talking about. It's a big difference from what I was doing before, but should be more effective and should keep you a lot safer in the long run.